Welcome back, ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan Airy, and let's talk about the ending of Wonder Man and what it means for Spider-Man Brand New Day and how it sets up the main antagonist of the Mutant Saga. So we are going to spoil the ending of this show, but honestly, the show is pretty great whether you know the ending or not. But just in case you didn't watch the entire series, I'm going to give you a quick TLDR to catch you up. Simon Williams is a struggling actor in LA who has developed superpowers at some point during his childhood. Now we know that there was an incident with a kitchen fire when he was a kid, and it's heavily implied that he's a mutant.
That you say?
The only problem is actors with powers are not allowed to work in Hollywood because an enhanced actor named Doorman got drunk on set and made Josh Gad disappear forever. Afterwards, the insurance premiums were just too darn high, so powered actors are essentially barred from work. So Simon has to keep his abilities a secret. Meanwhile, Trevor Slattery, aka the Mandarin, has arrived back in LA to resume his acting career, and he immediately is arrested by Damage Control. Now, Damage Control has popped up intermittently in the MCU, first cleaning up superheroes' messes after battles, but then later cleaning up superheroes themselves. They arrested Peter Parker and chased down Kamala Khan and Kamran, but more on them later. Damage Control, though, has a problem. Their Supermax prison we saw in She-Hulk is only half full, and they need to arrest powered people to get federal funding, which is actually accurate to how our modern penal system works, but that's for later in the video. So Agent Cleary wants Trevor's help to arrest Simon. Now at first Trevor agrees, but then the two of them are cast to be the leads in the big budget remake of Wonder Man, and this is Simon's dream role. It's the part that made him want to be an actor. He also associates this part with his dad because it was one of his favorite movies.
The first time I saw this, I just moved to the States. Now the special effects will be a little corny, but they were cool at the time.
But then a journalist digs up information on Trevor, finds out that he was arrested, and Simon works out that his best friend was spying on him. In a fit of rage, Simon goes to the soundstage and finally lets loose with his powers, exploding the set. But Trevor, to save his best friend, takes the fall as the Mandarin.
That explosion on the set of Hollywood's latest brainwashing superhero opiate, Wonder Man. I did that.
So Wonder Man opens, Simon becomes a huge star, and just as his agent asks what he wants to do next, we get this long sequence of him meeting an ordinary guy and shadowing him for a part. Now this sequence goes on for a big chunk of the episode, and then we finally get the reveal. The man is a prison guard at the Supermax prison. Simon enters, then uses his ionic powers to disrupt the cameras, and he rescues Trevor. See, the thing about this ending though is that it shows that Simon's true goal was not to be a movie star. This is what's called the lie the character believes. All through the series, we see Simon sacrifice friendships and relationships to achieve his dream, but he never even gets close to that dream until he becomes friends with Trevor. After Trevor starts coaching him, he's looser, he's happier, and he can manage his destructive impulses on set. However, he has to sacrifice that friendship in order to achieve fame, and this doesn't make him happy. Kind of a classic Hollywood success story. So Simon's true character arc in this series was to learn that he needs people in his life that he cares about, which is why he might just have sacrificed his career to help Trevor. Now, if I can just share something personal with you guys, this year I made a list of things about my life that I want to change, and number one is the physical shape that I am in. I have one of those weird builds where I have a skinny frame, but I love sugar, so I get a gut really easy. So I want to get rid of my gut while also consuming protein to build muscle. It's actually been a big struggle to find the right swaps for my diet to hit those goals. So I'm glad I found Flav City. They're the sponsor of this video. Now, what sets Flav City apart from other protein powders is that this is a complete smoothie. All you have to do is add 1 scoop to some milk, and then you get 25 grams of protein, 10 grams of collagen, plus fruit and functional mushrooms. You don't even need a blender. You just shake and you're on your way. And to learn more, hit the link in our description. I'm just a sucker for anything peanut butter. This is delicious. So these protein smoothies give me healthy flavor sourced from real food ingredients. Plus, they're delicious, so they still hit my sweet tooth. I also love how I can actually pronounce the ingredients on the label, including 100% grass-fed whey. There are no artificial flavors in a Flav City protein smoothie, so I know that I'm eating healthy while I'm also hitting my protein numbers and meeting my fitness goals. So it's time to stock up on your favorite protein smoothie to start off your new year right. Tap the link in the description and use the code NYScreenCrush to get 15% off. Guys, trust me, I know it's really hard to stick with your goals in the new year, especially when January is over. But Flav City is giving me that little extra push that I need to swap out my old processed foods for something that works for me. Again, check out my link below and use our code to try it for yourself. Now, back to what I was saying. Now let's talk about the ramifications of this ending, what it means for Simon's life, where we can see him again, and how all this is leading up to Spider-Man Brand New Day and the Mutant Saga. So this ending shows us that Simon has spent months mastering his abilities. See, for years, years, he bottled his powers up just like he bottled up his emotions. That's why he wanted to act. It was his only emotional outlet. But now, he has such great control of his abilities that he can subtly use ionic energy to short out video cameras. Now, this makes me think that he was not actually captured on film. Damage Control can suspect that he broke Trevor out of jail, but there's no direct proof. Now, there is the prison guard that he had been shadowing for weeks who let him into the facility. But remember, Simon gave him a ton of money to pay his daughter's medical debt. So this guard isn't saying anything, and Simon likely got away with it, which makes me glad because in the comics, Simon is set apart from other superheroes because he's also a movie star. It wouldn't be the same if he was like a superhero on the run. So let's talk about where we can see Simon next in the MCU and how this show could sort of stealthily be the first project of Phase 7. First, the most obvious place we could see Simon appear next is in Wonder Man Season 2. Now, there are no official plans for a new season of the show yet, but Marvel has switched to a more conventional TV structure, meaning that they are ordering multiple seasons of shows and not just one-off miniseries like WandaVision or Moon Knight. Now, with all the critical praise this show is getting, I think it's going to attract a lot of attention from people, and hopefully this gives it momentum for another season. Showrunner Andrew Guest was also developing Hawkeye Season 2, but he recently said that the window for that show has closed as Marvel has moved on to other projects, which probably implies that Kate Bishop is moving on to be part of the Young Avengers. The point is, though, that Andrew Guest could be free for another season of this show. Now, like I said, an important part of Simon's character is that he is a movie star and a working actor. But Trevor Slattery is an essential component to this show. See, Simon could take him somewhere safe, like there's the pocket dimension of Ta Lo that we saw in Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, but then we wouldn't get Ben Kingsley in a second season of this series. So either Trevor and Simon are on the run, or they have to somehow clear Trevor's name. And I know a great way they could get Trevor off the hook that would also set up a new Avengers team.
What is it? Won't you tell us?
She-Hulk. She lives in LA. She is an attorney specializing in high-profile cases. She's already represented one client who is in damage control custody. That's the Abomination. See, I think that She-Hulk could present a compelling case for Trevor. He was originally a patsy, and then he was kidnapped. And then Damage Control used cruel and unusual punishment to throw him in jail without any trial. Plus, there would have been no physical evidence that he blew up the studio.
Oh no, but his acting career, it would ruin him.
Not necessarily, because She-Hulk could then defend him in court. See, to me, the doorman clause sounds like discrimination. Simon was born with these abilities, and it's not fair to bar him from working. But most importantly, at this point, he's a big box office draw, so the studio would want to keep getting him in movies any way they could. Plus, a movie star with superpowers means that the studio can save a ton of money on visual effects.
Hello, I like money.
But what I like best about this idea is that it's an organic way to bring together two superheroes that can also lead to them forming the West Coast Avengers. So in the comics, the West Coast Avengers are an affiliate team that Hawkeye forms on the West Coast, and Wonder Man is a founding member. This would also be a great way to add in more MCU characters that maybe haven't gotten the attention they deserve. For instance, Rhodey lived on the West Coast before, and that character needs to get some redemption. The last time we saw him, they had implied that he had been replaced by a Skrull since he was paralyzed in Captain America Civil War. Notice the hospital gown. Now, Rhodey was supposed to star in a project called Armor Wars, but that show is basically stalled and maybe not even happening. So maybe that story of Stark Tech being in the wrong hands could be the plot of the West Coast Avengers. I mean, after all, Damage Control are already using Stark Tech that they seized in Spider-Man No Way Home. And hell, if they want to bring in other left coasters, use Ant-Man, Wasp, or Cassie Lang. That's my dream idea for Wonder Man's return, but I doubt if it's likely. She-Hulk actor Tatiana Maslany is rumored to no longer want to play the character, and the show wasn't exactly a fan favorite. Although, I like it. Mostly.
Morning.
Now, if you would like to do your part in helping take down dangerous enhanced people, then you can get your very own Damage Control shirt at our merch store. We also designed other favorites like the Doomsday Celebration in Latveria from 1984, Remember It, a tribute to Gambit, the Ooh, I'm about to make a name for myself, and the X-Men and the Nighthawks Diner. Links for these and many more are down below. Thank you for your support. Now, if Simon Williams is outed as a person with powers, maybe he wins his case, but then the studio takes retribution and he doesn't get cast in anything afterwards. So this is the second possibility for him. He could be a member of X-Force. There have been many iterations of this team over the years, but my personal favorite was from the Peter Milligan and Mike Allred run about a group of mutants who are also reality TV show stars. Their producers send them into battles that season. Basically, they can't win, and they have a very high mortality rate. In fact, in the first issue, the entire team dies. Simon could be forced into a team like this alongside other mutants. And now this is where we get into the real juicy stuff. Wonder Man is actually a direct setup to Spider-Man Brand New Day and the Mutant Saga. So we're going to be discussing some light plot rumors about Spider-Man Brand New Day, but look, nothing's confirmed, and I could be wrong about all of this.
Hold on to your butts, bro, chacho.
They specifically don't say how Simon got his powers. He doesn't understand them. They manifested when he was in puberty, just like mutant powers. Now, they could have just been hand-waving away his origin, because frankly, in the comics, his origin's kind of boring and convoluted. Or Simon could be one of the first mutants in the MCU. And then this shows us how damage control can be a major big bad throughout the Mutant Saga. Now, like I said earlier, their job was originally cleanup, like in the comics. But after the snap, their role grew into policing superpowered people. They not only arrested Peter Parker, but they also seized Stark technology, including the Edith drones. And then, in the show Ms. Marvel, they're hunting down Kamala Khan and Kamran by using the same repurposed drones. It's subtle, but this is actually a huge moment for the MCU. Like I said earlier, if they want to do Armor Wars, it would make sense for Rhodey to go up against Damage Control. And in this show, we see that Damage Control has become part of the industrial prison system. See, there's big money in prisons. Private companies build them, and then they provide jobs to rural communities. So there's always pressure on law enforcement to fill these giant prisons, whether people are actually breaking the law or not. So Damage Control has actually become an institution that has to validate its own existence. Instead of going after people who break the law, they're going after anybody who could be labeled as dangerous. And this sounds a lot like the Mutant Registration Act. This is a law that was being debated in the first X-Men movie and in X-Men the Animated Series, and it's also in the comics. And it essentially says the mutants have to be registered with the government. Now, Magneto recognizes this for what it is, the first step toward genocide. After all, he lived through the Holocaust. And that is where we are now in the MCU. Imagine what happens when mutants start popping up in this universe. Damage Control is going to start arresting them to fill their prisons and justify their own existence. And there are rumors that Damage Control is featured prominently in Spider-Man Brand New Day. After all, that movie is directed by Destin Daniel Cretton, who co-created the series Wonder Man. Those tanks in the BTS Spider-Man footage are rumored to be owned by Damage Control. So we see that this agency is also becoming more militarized, similar to how local police receive military hardware after September 11. Now, as the world fills up with more and more dangerous individuals, I think citizens are going to be more willing to give government agencies this kind of hardware and power. And in Brand New Day, they could be after Spider-Man, and this would make sense. Agent Cleary first appeared in No Way Home and then in Ms. Marvel, and he is the major antagonist of this show. So he's sort of slowly becoming an overarching big bad of this next saga. Damage Control might want to apprehend Spider-Man because, after all, he's a menace! But there's also rumors that they're actually after Sadie Sink's mystery character, that she is a dangerous person with mind control powers.
Oh, is it your mom?
Good one. No, actually, they haven't said who she's playing yet, which to me is very telling. If they are leaving this a secret, then it means she is someone big, so my money is all in on Jean Grey. Let's look at the similarities. Red hair. Mind control powers. Extremely dangerous. Remember, Jean is also the Phoenix, so in many ways, she is an Omega level mutant. And look, I know she gets possessed by the Phoenix Force, but you guys take my meaning. She's really dangerous. And if you want to cast a new X-Men movie with young actors, I mean, Sadie Sink is a perfect headliner. Hell, she just won a Tony. She is one of the best actors in the Stranger Things cast. So imagine that she is Jean Grey. This would confirm that Damage Control are hunting mutants. And then all the pieces fall into place for the Mutant Saga. As more mutants are being born, people look for more government oversight. Damage Control is always looking for more dangerous mutants. They're sniffing around Xavier's school. Maybe they even take some of that seized Stark tech and create a new type of Iron Legion that can actually detect and capture mutants. Not an Iron Legion though, more like an Iron Sentinel. They could also be key players in the Avengers movies. So in the comics, one of the mutants' key opponents in the government is called Henry Peter Gyrick, but he is also the government liaison to the Avengers. There's also rumors that future Avengers films are going to be smaller and more focused on them being an actual team, and less huge team-up movies like Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars. So maybe the Avengers don't agree to sign the Sokovia Accords and work for the government, but the compromise is some kind of government oversight, like letting Gyrick live in their headquarters. Hell, this could even lead to Gyrick being a secret supervillain. Maybe he's the shapeshifter Mr. Sinister in disguise. I mean, Sinister isn't technically a mutant, so he could pass by all the mutant detection screening. But if it's not Gyrick, I also think Everett Ross would be a great addition to the Mutant Saga. Or maybe, in the rebooted universe, Maria Hill comes back alive and we can get justice for that character. Now, all of this is speculation, but I do think the X-Men will need some kind of external government pressure. They can't fight for peaceful coexistence with humanity be if there's no one to fight against. And as Agent Cleary continues to be promoted, he could end up being head of the agency and a main antagonist, maybe even this saga's version of William Stryker. I should also mention that when they escape, the song playing is Harry Nilsson's Everybody's Talking at Me, the same song that played at the end of the film Midnight Cowboy, the movie where Trevor and Simon met. Now, their relationship has always mirrored Jon Voight and Hoffman's, with Trevor being the Hoffman character who finds gigs for the young, good-looking leading man, except, like Ratso is a pimp. And Cleary also mentions that Simon Williams could become an asset. So we could see a season 2 where Cleary is blackmailing Simon. Or maybe this could lead into a retelling of the HUAC committee meetings, where Hollywood insiders were encouraged to name communists in the industry in order to save their careers. Except in this case, it would be Simon rooting out superpowered people. But what do you guys think? Did you like the ending of Wonder Man? Are you excited for what comes next should they make a season 2? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below in our free to join Discord, or you can find me on Substack and subscribe there. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe, smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.